Welcome to a supercut for the Things You Missed series. Today we'll be going through
all areas of the Mountaintops of the Giants.
If this is your first supercut, let me quickly address why I'm doing this so you don't need to worry that I'm just regurgitating old content for the views. That is not at all what this channel is about. I just want to make the guides as clear and fun as possible for you. So I realised, why am I making you watch 3 or 4 videos for certain areas when I could bundle them all into one big video for your convenience and pleasure? Hence the supercut. So if at any point throughout this video I talk about in the next part, for example, I've just left that in because without it the video wouldn't sync up and you may have missed some vital footage. Now that you know that, please sit back, relax and enjoy. Today on the Things You Missed in Elden Ring series, we are going to be covering the Mountaintops of the Giants. I'm pretty sure this is going to have to be at least 3 parts because it is absolutely enormous, with 3 or 4 very big caves, a ton of bosses, a ton of quest lines, and so many other juicy items. So make sure you stay tuned to the channel by hitting the subscribe button to make sure you don't miss any future videos. And with that, I will meet you here at the Zamor Ruins Site of Grace, just to the northeast of the Grand Lift of Rold, and we'll start exploring the area. I already went through this initial area and took out all of the ancient heroes of Zamor because they are incredibly powerful and there's a lot of them. So you have to be super cautious taking them out, and it took a while, so I ran around and did that off camera. There's plenty of very high tier flowers throughout the whole of the Mountaintops of the Giants that you can loot if you wish, if you're doing much item crafting. Apart from them, the only few things of note in these ruins are the Zamor Ice Storm spell, just here at the end of this building. And then out and to the right hand side, you want to jump into the cellar and get the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearing 3. Which will now let you get every single weapon up to plus 18 infinitely, because you can buy all of the smithing stones from tier 1 to tier 6. As we're heading out of the ruins to the east, I'm going to stop here and look to the right where you've got a few spectral birds on top of this broken wall. There was some immunizing cured meat here that I accidentally grabbed off camera, so make sure you grab that if you want. And then on this tree that looks kind of like an inverted sword, actually it looks scarily like an inverted sword, doesn't it? There was a scarab with a somber smithing stone 8, so make sure you take him out as well as you're running past. Now we'll continue progressing to the east. Be careful of the birds that are going to jump out and ambush you along the way, and there really is nothing of note during the next little bit of our journey apart from 4 smouldering butterflies just here. And as you leave this area towards the north, you'll see a load of fire monks. We're going to leave them for now and drop down this cliff, swing behind you, and you'll be in the Giants' Mountaintop Catacombs. So we'll head in here. We'll be notified that the beast eye quivers, which means there's some death root in here. So light the Site of Grace, and in the next tip, we'll start going through the Giants' Mountaintop Catacombs. Oh, where to begin with this one? I debated even putting this in the video and just either making it its own separate video, or even seeing if someone else had done it and linking you to it there, because it's a monster. So I will skim over it briefly because there's some quite cool items in here, but I won't make this a complete step-by-step as I have done for others, because for the most part it's just really long. There is just going to be a load of imps and a load of living jars in here, and until the later areas of the dungeon it's all pretty self-explanatory, but it does start to incorporate a few of the elements of other dungeons that we've seen before, such as hidden floors beneath lifts. So every time you go up or down a lift, check below you to make sure there's not a hidden floor, and also repeating floors, so it looks like you're back on the same floor again when actually you're in a completely different area. Also, there is a crazy amount of exploding living jars, just like you can see in this room with all the giant guillotines. The jars, combined with these giant blades plummeting from the ceiling every few seconds, make this room very deadly, and you're going to encounter this a few times in this dungeon. After a few more rooms of enemies, including this hallway with all the poison spewing plant things, not the Miranda flowers, the other guys, these ones, you will then finally be at the end of the first floor. Be careful of a giant living jar, and then just after you take out him, you can get yourself a ritual pot. Then you want to come back into the room beforehand and drop down the little hole in the floor here. Make sure you grab the nascent butterfly from the ledge. and then be careful of a few more explodey jars as you go down. This is the first time we're now on a different floor that looks exactly the same. Keep working your way through, and eventually you'll come to another corridor that looks exactly the same with all of the poison spewing plants. But this time, as you turn the corner, is an absolutely gigantic one. In the next room, you can use this arrow trap to cheese this giant living jar to death, because by this point, you're probably running low on supplies. Jump down the hole in the floor once again to get back down, and this is where I get lost for a few minutes, so I'm going to skip forward in time and show you where the lever is for this dungeon. Drop down onto the bottom level, and then instead of taking the stairs up, this time head out the northern exit to the room, send this lift up, and just below you, you'll find another giant living jar. We're going to drop down and take him out, and then on this ledge here, you'll get a golden rune 10, and you can finally pull the lever. Now we're going to call for the lift, take it up, and then pretty much directly in front of you at the end of this hallway on the left is the boss room. But before we do that, we're going to go and explore a whole other section to this dungeon. So head back to the east, and this lift that originally brought you down, if you tread on it, will go down even further. So as you're coming into this room, you'll see a fanged imp in front of you that you can very easily sneak up behind and backstab. And then just round the corner will be a super powered Erdtree Burial Watchdog with a crazy powerful magic staff. But we've killed enough of them by now, right? This is easy. I'm definitely not gonna die. Again, and again, and again. Oh, he's a challenge. Holy crap, watching this back, I died to him so many more times than I realised. There we go. Right, and when he's finally been taken down, you can swing round under the stairs here and grab a Grave Glovewort 8. Now carry on down this hallway, and I'm going to have an absolute clusterfuck of a few seconds where I manage to get hit by the frost from the statue, then trigger a trap and get hit by the arrows, and then very narrowly miss being murdered by this fanged imp that jumps out on me. I don't know how the hell I survived that series of events, but Jesus, that was stressful. Be very careful as you're traversing these frost-breathing statues, and you will find another Erdtree Burial Watchdog at the end here. You can use the statues to your advantage and actually trigger one of them back up again to help you take him out. And then, I don't know if this is a guaranteed drop, but he gave me the Watchdog's Greatsword, and also at the end of the room you can get the Fire Monk Ashes. Now that we're done with this little side area, we'll head back up the lift into the boss room and instantly get destroyed by the ulcerated tree spirit. Let's go back down and try that again. I won't show you much of the fight because we fought plenty of these by now. You're not missing anything. It's the same as it always has been, and you'll get a golden seed and the Glovewort Picker's Bell Bearing too. Make sure you grab the death root before you leave this dungeon, and finally we're done so we can continue on with the next part of the video. Wait, am I... Oh, fuck. Just humming along to myself. It turns out I've clicked record. Alright then, as we leave the dungeon, we're now going to start taking out the fire mug enemies that we saw previously. Luckily, they all get one-shotted by the comet spell. I even managed to get 2 for 1 here. And then you can grab the 3 Arteria leaf from this corpse. And now there's going to be a fairly quick fight where I just get absolutely murderized by this dude. I even summon my Mimic Tear halfway through, and God knows what he's doing, but I can tell you what he's not doing. Helping. Twat. Alright, so let's die and try that again. Going to be more cautious as we take them out this time. And then right at the end here, you can get the Briars of Punishment spell, which is a more powerful version of, I believe it's called the Briars of Sin. I'm now just going to spend a minute here making sure we haven't missed anything, but I can assure you nothing was missed, and we'll start making our way across this incredibly precariously put together bridge. During the first half of it, you're absolutely safe, there's no need to rush, and you can go and grab the Lost Ashes of War off the corpse on this chair here. But during the second part of the bridge, I advise you sprint across it. Halfway through, you can jump off to the left and hide behind this broken pillar here, and that will allow you to dodge the first arrow from the giant. And then I advise you sprint across the rest of the bridge and go and take him out before you jump down and grab this loot, or this will happen. So now that he's just done that to us, it's payback time. And whilst I'm murderizing his face, I'd just like to say, Ezo Games, thank you so much for following over on Twitch. And everyone else, if you're not already, why not? We're currently doing a 100% complete playthrough over on twitch.tv/Dom's Roundtable, and we're probably going to be doing a few streams where we practice my Rune Level 1 run before it then gets uploaded to YouTube. So now that the giant's dead, keep heading north and we can take out this scarab, which will reward us with a Somber Smithing Stone 8. and then just a little bit further north will be the ancient Snow Valley Ruins Site of Grace. We grabbed that during the previous video when we were doing Juno's questline, so I'll meet you there for the next tip. As you can see, Millicent is here with me. We'll ignore that for now though, and I'll cover her properly in her questline, which hopefully will be coming soon. And we're just going to head north out of this chasm and go and explore the 2 points I've marked on the map to the east. Feel free to ignore these giants, they are really not worth your time. So much health for so little reward. So we'll swing round to the southeast here and grab ourselves a golden seed, and then we'll head all the way to the northeast and you'll see a statue that needs breaking. So we'll wake up this giant and make him come over here and smash it up for us. And as soon as we've grabbed the 3 smithing stone 7, we're then going to get out of this chasm just over to the north hand side, grab this site of grace and rest up to de-aggro him, which will take us into the final part for this video. Directly east from the site of grace that we just rested at, we can start traversing into this beautiful frozen lake. And just by these few trees here, you'll see an invisible scarab running around. So using your weapon or spell of choice to take out these guys, as you can see here, I opted for the nebula weapon art. With the right timing, you'll take him out and you'll get the Ash of War Seppuku, which is not one I've used before, but I actually see a bunch of people when using the builds to like fully maximize the damage and really min-max the damage output of their character, always using this, so I might have to give it a go. Anyway, once he's dead, we're just going to start running southeast, and very soon a great mist will descend and you will not be able to see more than a few feet in front of you. So I'm going to summon my Mimic Tier and prepare for Borealis, the freezing fog. I advise to use very different tactics to what I did for this boss fight. The closer you stay to him, the less he's going to use his freezing breath attacks, and they are so lethal. The one thing I would advise right at the start of the fight is run away a bit, and eventually the freezing mog... The freezing mog? What even is that? And eventually the frozen fog around you will start to evaporate and you'll actually be able to see the battlefield again, which is really going to help. You can pretty much fight him like you do with most dragons, but he is definitely one of the stronger ones in the game, so just be careful as you're taking him out. My Mimic Tier really did not do anything to help me in this one. Absolute waste of bloody time. And once he dies, you will get 100,000 runes and a dragon heart. We're continuing with part 2 of the Mountaintops of the Giants, and I meet you now in the Spirit Caller Cave, which is pretty much directly southwest of where we fought the giant dragon at the end of the last video. Firstly, make sure you avoid this huge hole in the ground. It won't be there initially. I did already tumble down it once, which is why it's now there. And as we're running down this branch, the gimmick of this cave is every single enemy is being kept alive and keeps respawning because of the Spirit Caller snails. So I'll show you where they are to make your run a little bit easier. Just after we've killed this first one here, we can grab 5 Arteria Leaf. And then as you're heading down into this tunnel, just off on the left, you'll get a Hero's Rune 1, a Golden Rune 10, and a Rune Arc. After you've grabbed them, we'll head back out the other way and continue on down. Just off to the right here, where this snail and wolf is exactly where you fall down if you accidentally fall into the cave. And now you don't need to take out Inaba, Disciple of Akina, because there is actually no reward for defeating them. So after dying the first time, I'm going to come back here, and once I've taken them out, you'll see I get no items and no runes. So the best thing for you to do is actually just hop directly down below and kill the Spirit Caller snail just here. This next area is absolutely riddled with enemies, and there are 2 snails controlling them all, so I suggest you sprint past everything and take out the snails as quickly as possible. Right next to where you kill this one, you can also pick up the White Reed armor set, and then the other one is just over here. Now that all the enemies are dead, we can go around and grab the invigorating white cured meat as well. And we're at the boss. The boss is a Spirit Godskin Apostle who is just as tough as the other one we already fought in the Divine Tower of Caelid. And then when you kill him, he will be immediately followed by a Godskin Noble, who again is equally as tough as the one in Volcano Manor. Good luck with them. They make this a very tricky fight, just because you've already probably exhausted quite a few of your healing items before you've got here. And then when they both die, the Spirit Caller Snail will reveal itself. Once you've taken him out, you'll get the Godskin Swaddling Cloth and the Black Flame Ritual. And just so you know, the Godskin Swaddling Cloth is a talisman, which means that the more attacks you do in succession, the more HP you'll restore, so that's pretty cool. I've never tried it, so I don't know how effective it is. Usually HP restoration talismans in this game restore such a tiny amount that it's not worth it, but maybe worth considering. Now we'll head back out of this cave and into the next tip. Back out the front, we're going to start heading down towards the south. Just off to the south, you'll see the Forge of the Giants, which we'll be going to defeat the main boss for the area later on. Not in this part of the video, but later on in the series. And over to the right hand side is an even more horrible version of the crayfish that we are going to be avoiding. Now over to the southeast here, you can get the Somberstone Miner's Bell Bearing 3, which means you can now get all of your Somberstone weapons up to +6. And also in the First Church of Marika, you can grab a Sacred Tear. And then once you've got the Sight of Grace, head to the east on top of this mountain and you'll get 3 smithing stones, 7. Once you're done there, head west and you can grab the golden runes from these tombs here. Just be careful of all the dogs that are around. Then just behind them, you want to jump up this spirit spring and go and challenge the boss at the Lord Contender's Everjail. Here you will fight another version of Vike. I believe he's probably a lot stronger than the version we fought back in the Altus Plateau, but he didn't give me much trouble, probably just because I spammed spells at him. And you're awarded with his fingerprint armor set and Vike's Dragon Bolt, which is very, very awesome. For the next few minutes, I'm just going to head north towards a tower that you can see off in the distance, taking out all the hot air balloons for some Golden Rune 12 and dealing with all the marionettes. So once you've cleared up all them, I'll meet you at the entrance to the tower, where we are advised by the statue that falling snow marks something unseen. I've just come round to the west of the tower, and you can see off on the other side of the mountain is a broken bridge. That's where we're going to aim for next. So let's teleport back over to the freezing lake, and once I've dealt with all the skeletons, I will meet you there. And as we're running towards the edge of the bridge, I'm going to jump off my horse. Oh, what? Magic. Now, for anyone here that's played Dark Souls 3, was it 3 that they did this? As far as I'm aware, the snow is supposed to be landing on the invisible bridge and showing you the way. There should be shimmers on the bridge, but damned if I could see any. So what I'm going to do now is fumble around trying to enable online mode so that other people's bloodstains and messages can guide the way for me. So I will meet you back here in the next part of the tip once I finally manage to get myself online. And here we are. That looks better. So as you can see, once you walk a certain way down, there is actually a shimmer leading up off to the left here. Now, this isn't the shimmer I was expecting. This is more defined. This is actually too easy to follow for me. I much preferred how they did it in Dark Souls, when you really had to pay attention to the snow falling on the bridge. This is literally just a path you can follow. But I'm very confused as to why it's not along the main bit and just on this little side bit. But either way, we've made it. We're now on our way up to the tower, and we have now made it in to the Heretical Rise. Beware of lots of enemies in here. I always forget the name of these buggers, but you know the ones. And as always, let's work our way up to the top of the tower, and this time we'll be rewarded with the Founding Rain of Stars, which is a legendary spell. Doing that opened up the rise, so we can just walk back out the main entrance, and I'll meet you there for the next part of the video. For the next few minutes, there's just going to be lots of running and killing as we get towards the next Sight of Grace. So just work your way south toward the battlements that you see off in the distance. You can grab 5 explosive great bolts here. Then there's a load of enemies I'm going to spend some time clearing up, like the giant dogs that you see in Caelid, and also there's a little cluster of lava slugs here as well, where you can grab some smouldering butterflies. Once you've had fun killing all the enemies, get to the front of the barricades, and you'll see the White Ridge Road Sight of Grace just here. Also, I've only just noticed, have you seen that when you rest now, there's a little white circle to let you know if you have extra flask upgrades that you haven't used? I kind of don't like that and wish there was an option to turn it off. Like, you know me, I'm not elitist at all, but I do really like the difficulty level of Dark Souls. I like having to figure out everything by yourself, having to remember where all the NPCs are, having to remember if you've got flask upgrades, realizing when you've died halfway through the game that you've actually got 10 flasks you forgot to upgrade. I really like coming to them realizations. I don't want the game to tell me to do it. I'd go and play fucking Horizon if I wanted that. No offense, Horizon. Little bit of offense. David, could you cut that out, please, so that people don't think there's a little bit of elitist in me? Okay, thanks. Work your way up to the fort you see on the right hand side here. You can just run past all the enemies if you want, but I'm going to spend some time killing them all so that I can freely loot the area. And as you can see, just after we beat this big boy, we can get a stone sword key. And now that the area is completely clear, we'll head inside Guardian's Garrison and I'll meet you there. Okay, so I end up making this look a lot more difficult than it needs to be, because I was recording this very late at night, I was very tired, and my skills were not on point. Ideally, I really should have waited for the next play session, but I just really wanted to get it done for you, because I was having a lot of fun. So once you've cleared the rat and the flame guardian from the ground floor here, you can loot the flowers, but there's nothing else of note down here. Now head up the stairs and deal with the other rat, and here you can grab 6 smouldering butterflies. Now I'm going to run out the back where you're ambushed by a dog and you can get a golden rune 10. Then I'm going to fumble around for about the next 10 minutes trying to figure out where I'm supposed to actually go. I aggro this guy down from the ramparts in the hopes that he'll show me the way, and he just decides to yeet himself off the edge. But finally, I spot the ladder, and it's in the corner where these flowers were, just behind these barrels. So let's head up the ladder, deal with the first Flame Guardian, deal with the second one, and then grab the Smithing Stone 7 from the end here. Now we can back up a little bit and jump off onto the wooden balcony around the edge of the fort. Head up here and then be careful, because on your left is a little dog and a big dog that are about to just absolutely wreck my shit. So we'll beeline it through all the enemies, we'll come back and we'll try that again. This time Nebula makes short work of the dogs, and we're left to face Chief Guardian Arganthy. Once he's dead, you'll get the one-eyed shield, which I've never used but looks awesome. Not much of a shield user in these games. I start off using the shield because guard counters are awesome, but then I decide I just want to swing big weapons around and do lots of damage. And then right at the top of this tower, you can help yourself to the Giant's Prayer Book. Now teleport back to White Ridge Road. Now teleport back to White Ridge Road, and I'll meet you there. Once you're done at the garrison, head back outside and carry on heading south, and we're finally going to go and grab the map for the area. There's nothing else on this part of the mountain, so come straight to this chain and head over to the next area. As soon as you get here, you can grab the map and a Site of Grace, and I'm just going to venture slightly out from the Site of Grace and just test the strength of the enemies here. Yeah, this giant Yeti Sasquatch guy has got like over 10,000 health and does an insane amount of damage, so I imagine that's going to be the first and last one of them I try and kill. Also, yay, the finger creepers are back, just what I always wanted. So I'm going to be avoiding the majority of the enemies for the next part of this video. However, by killing this big boy here, you do get a Somber Smithing Stone 7 the first time you kill him. So I advise trying to kill each of the big ones at least once if you do need some Somber Smithing Stones. Now we're going to start heading all the way over to the west here. I'll skip through most of the journey as it's very uneventful, apart from 3 invigorating white cured meat just here. And be super careful if you want to grab this drawstring holy grease, because that finger creeper very nearly grabbed me. Now I am going to make the most butt-clenching jump of my entire life over the finger creeper that just decided to try and jump scare me as I was jumping over the mountain pass. And we are now at the giant conquering hero's grave. I'm going to grab that Site of Grace and then leave it for now and mark a few points on the map that we're going to go and do first, because I really want to postpone doing that cave for as long as possible. The majority of the run to all the items I've marked on the map is very uneventful and also very straightforward, so I'll skip most of it. However, just as we're coming southeast up this hill, a literal gigantic finger creeper will one-shot this bird by jumping on it here and proceed to try and absolutely destroy us. Sprint away from him, and before long you can come to a Site of Grace and reset him. I'm now going to spend some time trying to kill him, because something that big must give some awesome rewards, right? Like a Somber Ancient Smithing Stone and 50,000 runes. Yeah, nah. He gives you 4k runes, nothing else, and respawns. Just ignore him. He is not worth your time at all. Now you can keep heading north and grab this golden seed. You know, I said I was going to ignore the rest of the Sasquatch Yeti enemies. Yeah, that's why. That was a bad idea. So that officially will be the last time I try and fight one of them. Now, if you want, as we're running to the next tip, you can grab the Golden Rune 10 here. And I'm going to start doing some very precarious mountain climbing on Torrent to get on top of these rocks. And up here, you can grab yourself a load of Arteria Leaf. Now we'll drop down off towards the east, and I've reached one of the beacons I placed and realised we're in the wrong area. We actually need to be below where we currently are. So head round to the southeast as you're following the edge of the mountains, and eventually the cliff will level off enough that you can drop down and go underneath. As we're going along the edge of the cliff, following the underpass here, there will be an insane amount of finger creepers that start to drop down and ambush you the further down you get. I'll skip most of it, but I'll leave in a bit of the footage so that you can see where we are, but it's pretty boring. It's mostly just me killing about 20 finger creepers until we get to the end here, when we see an epic item in this little bowl, and just as I try and grab it, I'm ambushed and nearly killed by another giant finger creeper. This fight is very intense, and I end up having to retreat a few times as I'm spamming spells at him and trying to kill him. For our efforts, we are rewarded not only with the Somber Smithing Stone 7 for killing him, but also the Crimson Whirl Bubble Tier, which restores your health every time you are hit, and for every hit you take, it restores 5% of your max health. So as usual with these healing things, not really worth it. Most enemies by this point are 2-shotting you. 5% of health will make you be 3-shot at best. Not really worth it. And with that, let's move into the next part. Back at the site of Grace where we were attacked by the humongous Finger Creeper, head pretty much directly west, and before long you'll be invaded by Bloody Finger Okina, who is wielding the Rivers of Blood, and when defeated will give you the Rivers of Blood and the Okina Mask. Now, I've heard that this is one of the most overpowered weapons in the game, and that its unique skill, Corpse Pilot, is absolutely insane. So I end up wielding this for the next few videos, and I'm not really that blown away by it, if I'm honest. So I think I'll end up switching back, but you'll get to see me try it out during the next few segments of this series. It may be that it's just really good in PvP, but for PvE, I wasn't blown away by it. Also at this church, you can get a sacred tear, and if you hop up the cliffs here and into the mouth of this giant skull, you'll get an ancient dragon smithing stone. And finally, for this guide, head to the south, and behind these rocks you'll see a spirit spring. Use it and you'll be able to get right on the very top of this giant mountain for the Ash of War Troll's Roar. It's my pleasure to present to you today the third and final part in the Mountaintops of the Giants, Things You May Have Missed. I'm going to start out by marking a few points of interest on the map here, and from the Freezing Lake site of Grace, just before we start heading northwest up the mountain towards the first pointer, I'm going to spend a minute or two testing out the Rivers of Blood. So far, I'm not hugely blown away by it. It looks really cool, it does a decent amount of damage, but it's definitely not my favourite weapon, so we probably won't be using this for too long. Once I've had my fun with all the skeletons and we're at the top of the mountain, off to the north here you can see Castle Sol, which we'll be covering in next video, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can stay tuned for that. And now as we continue along the southwest, we'll very quickly come across a new site of Grace which we'll be using for pretty much the entirety of the remainder of this video. Now head southeast along this bridge, you can activate that summoning pool should you wish, and before long you'll trigger the Erd Tree avatar boss at the foot of the minor Erd Tree. And when he's at nearly on 1/2 health, another one spawns? I didn't quite see what happened, whether it was a spell he cast or another one spawned, but they share a health bar, so it doesn't take them long to go down because the Corpse Piler actually slashes both of them at once, so the fact that a second one spawned made this fight easier than it did harder, which is amazing. And we're then rewarded with the Cerulean Crystal Tier and the Crimson Bubble Tier. From here, you can continue heading southwest. There's no notable loot to mention, just a load of demi-humans to take out. Then I'll meet you on this bridge where we grab a Somber Smithing Stone 9 and set ourselves up for the next part of the video. From the bridge, we can now head north to this next plateau and into the Stargazer's ruins. Here, you will see a few bat enemies. It doesn't feel like it's currently nighttime, and I thought they only spawned at night, so I'm now very confused. And as you come to the center of the ruins, you'll see a jellyfish calling out for their sister. From here, you want to use the Spirit Jellyfish Ashes to reunite the sisters. They'll now sod off and give you the fancy spin emote, so bear with me whilst I find it and then do a little fancy spin for you. Now we can head down, and this was blocked off by a seal, which we have now broken, and it will grant us access to the Primal Glintstone Blade, which is a talisman, which means that spells consume less FP, but it reduces your maximum health by 10%. Wait, after a second look, no it doesn't. 10% would be like 140 health. Okay, it must reduce your health by like 8%, maybe 7.5. Anyway, apart from the freezing grease back here, that's all there was to do at the Stargazer ruins. So we'll head northwest and prepare to go along this next bridge here in the next tip. As I'm working my way over to the next tip, which was going to be a Tibia Marina boss, I decided to loop around the bottom of the mountain here to avoid the giant skeleton torsos scattered all over the place, and ran into a Deathrite bird. As I've mentioned before, I'm pretty sure it's not nighttime at the moment, so I'm not sure why this has spawned. Maybe it's just perpetually nighttime here. But anyway, I'm thoroughly unprepared, and I die to the Deathrite bird very quickly. I then come back and start to attempt to cheese him, and realise because I've changed my build, I can no longer wield my strong bow. So I start trying to take him down with a completely unupgraded black bow, however that's doing no damage. So I'll now go and level it up off screen, and you see me now back here again, absolutely destroying him with insane amounts of damage. Oh my god, I love the black bow so much. It's so strong when you upgrade it. This now becomes an incredibly fun cheese fest, and once he's dead, we're rewarded with a silly amount of runes and the Death Ritual Spear. And also, now that he's dead, we can start heading east, and I've just realised that we're currently at the bottom of the mountain when we need to be at the top. So after a little bit of backtracking, you will join me just here. And also, thank you for the follow over on Twitch, Mole, and thank you for reminding everyone else to go and follow over on twitch.tv/DomsRoundtable. And whilst I'm in the swing of doing a very subtle plug, I'd just like to call out that we also have a Patreon now, where you can directly support the channel and help me to continue creating amazing content for you every day. And Patreon is a great way to support the channel because you will be rewarded for your support with perks such as your name in the credits of every video, and at higher tiers, early access to all new videos and even exclusive merchandise. Whilst I've been talking, that should have given us enough time to traverse the laser beam spewing giant skeleton torsos and finally make it to the Tibia Marina boss. We'll take him out and we'll be rewarded with the Helfen Steeple. And also, if you've been following this whole guide, this will finally give you the 9th and last death route in the game, so you can now go and finish up Gerank's questline, which I already demonstrated for you at the end of the previous video, Castle Sol. So now let's move into the next tip. I now meet you on the bridge just to the south of the Stargazer ruins, and here you can meet up once again with the Noble Gold Mask and Brother Corin. I'll show you the full steps on how you get him here and what you need to progress to this point in the full NPC questline video for Brother Corin. But for now, for anyone who is already here, you can speak to them both to progress their questlines, and also if you completed the Volcano Manor questlines and opted not to use the Tonic of Forgetfulness on Raya, you can now offer it to Brother Corin here instead. He will refuse it, but it will unlock new dialogue and offer a slightly different ending to his questline. There is actually only one step left in Brother Corin's questline at this point in the game, but we can't complete it until we've progressed through the Forge of the Giants. If we were to do that now, that would lock us out of certain side areas that we want to wrap up, so that will be coming a little further on in the series. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and stay tuned for that. Thank you. There's now two final things for us to do in the Mountaintops of the Giants. We'll be doing one of them now, which is the Giant Conquering Hero's Grave, and then the final thing is the main boss for the area and the Forge of the Giants. But they won't be coming until a much later video, as there's a lot of optional content that we can wrap up that will become inaccessible if we complete the Forge of the Giants first. Now let's move into the next tip. So let's go through this dungeon, and then in the next few upcoming videos we'll be covering a lot of amazing optional areas such as the Consecrated Snowfields and Miquella's Haligtree. And once we've finished absolutely everything else, then we'll come back here and tackle the Forge of the Giants. First things first, in the Stone Sword Key room directly in front of you, you can grab the Flame Protect Me incantation. And as we're starting to run through the dungeon, you'll see I've changed up my build again. And for the first time ever, I'm trying out the Falling Star Beastjaw and its incredibly powerful Ash of War, the Gravity Bolt. I mean, just look at this. This enemy just got absolutely deleted. And I don't know if I just got lucky with the loot, but he dropped half of his armor set as well, including the Fire Monk hood and armor. There's also an illusionary wall just here to the right of you, and that will lead you to a golden rune 11. Now you actually want to drop down here where we just picked up the golden rune, as there is a light sigil on the floor. You can lead the imps into it, and once you've taken them out, you can then do the same with the Erdtree Burial Watchdog at the bottom of the stairs just here. That's this area done, apart from a Grave Glovewort 7 right at the other end of the room, and a Grave Glovewort 9 directly underneath the light sigil. Just beware of the imps that will ambush you as you head into that section of the room. Now we can go into the next section of the dungeon, be wary of the fire statue, and then you can come into the next room, and directly above you will be a fire monk and another stone sword key room. In here is a Grave Glovewort 8 and the Cranial Vessel Candlestand weapon, along with an ambush from some invincible imps that I'm just going to ignore for now. But if you do want to take them out, what you want to do is actually hit this fire statue to send it back up again. That will project the light back on the floor and make them vulnerable. Once you've had your fun in this room, now we can head through into the next area and down this lift. Down here will be a lever that we can pull to open up this door, and then to make the giant that you can see vulnerable, you want to head back and send the lift back up again. Don't go up with it, and it will make another light sigil appear on the ground just here. Coax the giant into the sigil, and once you've taken him out, that will actually open the boss room for the dungeon. Now on your way through these doors, you can get a Ghost Glovewort 9 on the left hand side, and now be ready for the boss, which is literally just another ancient hero of Zamor. He's not even really a boss. Like, he's got the same moveset and everything. He's just got a bit more health and a bit more damage. So once you've completely wiped the floor with him, you'll be rewarded with his weapon and his armor set, which is a pretty decent reward for such an easy boss. We're not quite done with this dungeon yet though. Head back out the way we just came, and you can jump off either side of the ledge here. Straight away, you can grab the giant seal, and then you want to be very careful as you're taking out this fire prelate. Once he's dead, I'm unsure if it's a guaranteed drop, but I got his armor, and then right at the end of the room you can get a great grave glovewort. We love them +10 upgrade materials. That's all there is in this room, so now you can drop down once again, and down here there will be a grave glovewort 9 behind the burial watchdog on your right, and a grave glovewort 8 at the end of the room. Before you go anywhere, they are both currently invincible. I'll show you how to take them out if you want to, but honestly, there's no reason to be down here apart from the spirit upgrade materials I just mentioned. They don't drop any cool loot, so what I would advise is just run through, grab the materials, get up the ladder, and don't bother coming back. There's also some grave glovewort up here before you drop down that you can grab as well. But if you do want to make them vulnerable, then what you'll need to do is head up the ladder at the end of the room to get out of this area, come back to the lift that we used earlier to take out the troll, pull the lever to send it back down, and it will go to the lower platform where the watchdogs are, and it will light a sigil there. Now you can coax them into the sigil, make them vulnerable, and take them out. And finally, once they're dead, or if you just opted to run past them, you can take the ladder back up once again and start heading out. And now we are done with this dungeon. Once you've grabbed all of the loot that you want, you can leave. And that completes the Mountaintops of the Giants, apart from the forge itself, which, as I say, will be coming back and completing in a later video. So all I have left to say is I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.